have told that journalism is a lying field, but I beg to disagree because as a former student journalist, I've progressed a lot as an individual and a teacher because of my experiences on it. We all know that journalism plays a vital role in the academy. It serves as a training ground for students, and the school paper serves as a venue for campus freedom. As a teacher, especially a BS Ed major in English, we should relay this to our students. We cannot deny the fact that journalism, at its very core, is founded through literature and language, and we cannot skip it because journalism is a part of us. Personally, journalism is a dream and a passion for me, but way back in college, journalism served as a ticket for me to be on different places I thought I will never visit, and to meet new people I never thought, even in my wildest dream, to be with. But other than the landscapes, sceneries, and friends, journalism made me find a deeper and a stronger sense of camaraderie and purpose to inspire and encourage others. I found a platform where I can be a more responsible citizen for my country, and journalism, I believe, can take you to a higher and deeper meaning of life. Thus, for me, journalism is more than a passion. It is a purpose. And we owe it to our students to teach them the same thing, that journalism is a purpose.
Good day everyone, I'm Mom Shirazan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today our topic in campus journalism is editorial.
As a student, have you experienced debating with your classmates in class?
Isn't it that there are people or there are students who agree to the shutdown and there are also people or students who disagree, right? And that is an issue. And let's try to use that as an example in developing an editorial. The issue that I mentioned a while back can elicit concept or element that is embedded in editorial. First thing to consider is that editorial should have an issue. Such issue should be timely and should have a high degree of sensibility and relevance to the reading public. In the given topic a while back, the practical issue is
whether it was right to shut down ABS-CBN or not.
The second one is there should be a group or cluster that is analyzing
the given issue.
The third one is there should be a stand.
The identified group should have a position on a certain issue.
The story that I mentioned a while back gives a clear understanding that one group defends the closure or the shutdown of ABS-CBN and the other group may sturdily stand for ABS-CBN,
that it should not have been shut down.
The fourth one is there should be pieces of evidence. The situation should allow the members of the class or the group of people to give specific pieces of evidence to support their claims. Why? Why not? Remember that an editorial is the stand of the whole editorial board. So all the members of the editorial board should have a say on what is going to be the stand of the school paper on that certain issue. Well, sometimes the editorial board members even vote for the topic and for the stand they will have to develop in their editorial. The following are the characteristics of an editorial. First, an editorial follows a pattern. An editorial is an essay. Just like the feature story, it means to say that an editorial should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Number two, it simplifies an issue. An editorial is an objective explanation of a certain issue. Hence, it usually simplifies the complex issues by eliminating extraneous parts of the news. In other words, it puts the news in its proper perspective. For example, the hottest news is about the imposing of higher grading system in the school or in the university. An editorial may talk about its causes and effects to the students, teachers, and stakeholders. The third one is it provides opinions from the opposing viewpoints. Although an editorial showcases the stand of the paper, it attempts to be objective by presenting views that refute directly the same issues the group addresses. Number 4, it shows evidence delivered in a professional and formal manner. Formality encompasses the use of the language and the style of argumentation. Good editorials engage issues, not personalities. It refrains from name-calling or other petty tactics of persuasion like stereotyping. Feature writing bears a set of loose-leaf rules in the use of language, that is, the writer may expound the idea by using creative language. In contrast, editorial writing is direct to the point, and it yields a serious tone. Number 5, it offers alternative solutions. One prime function of editorial is to effectuate change in others' beliefs and stance. The editorial does this by offering a suggestion to remedy the problem or issue being criticized. Anyone can gripe about a problem, but a good editorial should take a proactive approach in making the situation better by using constructive criticism and giving solutions. 6, it prefers a solid and concise conclusion. Towards the end of the editorial often lies the powerful summarized opinion. In other words, it gives the reader an unforgettable punch that they can live by. Now, what are the functions of editorial? An editorial explains or interprets. Editors often use editorials to explain the way the newspaper covered a sensitive or controversial subject. In a school setting, the publication may explain new school rules or a particular student body effort like a fund drive. The second one is to criticize. As discussed, editorials constructively criticize actions, decisions, or situations while providing solutions to the problem identified. The purpose of doing so is to get readers to see the problem, not the solution. The third one is to persuade. An editorial primarily aims at driving the readers to crusade with the paper's stand. Hence, the paper's task, being in the realm of journalism, is to encourage others to take a specific positive action. The fourth one is to praise. Editorials are also used to commend people and organizations for having contributed something to champion progress, development, and peace. In the context of a campus paper, editorials may praise the initiative of the student body to raise funds for the erection of a new dormitory. Now let's talk about the different types of editorial. Let's start off with the Editorial of Interpretation. The main aim of this editorial is to put the news in its proper perspective. The paper may take a neutral stand on the specified issue and may give the responsibility of choosing a side to the readers themselves. Editorial of Criticism. By criticism, it means that the editorial points out the faults in a situation or in an issue mentioned in a news. It uses a scientific method by defining the problem, examining the evidence available, and then perhaps suggesting a solution. Editorial of Argumentation or Persuasion. This type of editorial is the most common type being used in the dailies. Following the principles of argumentation and debate, this type of editorial takes a stand in a controversial issue and tries to convince the reader to adopt this stand. Editorial of Commendation and Tribute. Editorials may be used to praise a worthy deed done by a person or by an institution. Thus, this type of editorial, the paper should qualify the tribute and therefore see that such contribution impacts on the lives of the reading public or the academic community. Editorial of Entertainment. Some editorials also discuss issues lightly but often have a serious point, gently and subtly suggested, and sometimes satirically. Editorial of Crusade. This editorial usually endorses a thought or a course of action. It promotes a concept, an idea, or an advocacy. This is also called a campaign editorial. And the editorial liner. These are short, witty paragraphs, either serious or light. Now, how about the structure of an editorial? Just like an essay, it follows a certain structure. It focuses on specific topic or issue, it offers a thesis, and it also offers evidence or supporting arguments in order to convince the reader. Of course, the title should clearly identify the topic. And in the introduction, the statement of the writer regarding his view is also stated. And the body will provide evidence and examples. And of course, the final appeal and the summary of the points of views of the writer is written in the conclusion. The following are suggestions to students in writing the editorial. First, in planning the editorial, you have to decide what issue you will write about and clearly define the issue. And consider who your intended audience will be. For example, it may be the general readership, or it may be directed at those who hold a particular view that may or may not already have been expressed in the media or other public forum. Brainstorm a variety of strategies you can use to gain reader support for your view on the issue. Develop logical and ethical arguments. Conduct necessary research both to gather information about the audience you are writing for and to collect evidence, examples, and support for the view you are promoting. Develop an outline to follow before you begin writing. And in the process of writing the editorial, you follow the pattern and style of editorial writing. In most editorials, the opinion of the writer is given near the beginning, followed by supporting evidence and reasoning. This is called the direct approach. The first person plural voice, which is we, are, is most common in editorial writing and is appropriate in establishing the credibility of the board. State your opinion briefly in the fashion of a thesis statement. Remember to explain the issue objectively as a reporter would and tell why the situation is important. Give opposing viewpoint first with its quotations and facts. Then refute or reject the other side and develop your case using facts, details, figures, quotations. Pick apart the other side's logic. Concede the point of the opposition. They must have some good points you can acknowledge that would make you look rational. Repeat key phrases to reinforce an idea into the reader's minds. Give a realistic solution or solutions to the problem that goes beyond common knowledge. Wrap it up in a concluding punch that restates your opening remark or thesis statement. Keep it 300 to 500 words for beginners like you and make every word count. Develop a strong introductory statement to capture the reader's attention and to state your opinion. Use a logical sequence of presenting your arguments and an effective conclusion to maximize the impact on the reader. The following is a sample structure of an editorial writing. First, start with a news peg with an objective explanation of the issue or controversy. The editorial lead, like in the news story, is a showcase of write-up. However, it is not considered the heart of the story like in news. The first paragraph is usually called the news peg. A news peg is a brief statement about the news event or issue upon which the editorial is based. Included in the first paragraph is your stand and or your reaction. Of course, your reaction should be clear and concise. Present your opposition first. As the writer, you disagree with these viewpoints. Identify the people, specifically those who oppose you. Use facts and quotations to state objectively their opinions. Directly refute the opposition's belief. You can begin your article with transition. Pull in other facts and quotations from people who support your position. Consider the valid point of the opposition, which will make you appear rational, one who has considered all the options. Give other original reasons or analogies. In defense of your position, give reasons from strong to strongest order. Use a literary or cultural allusion that leads to your credibility and perceived intelligence. Conclude with some punch. Give solutions to the problem or challenge the reader to be informed. So a quotation can be effective, especially if it is from a respected source. A rhetorical question can be an effective concluder as well. Like, for example, if the government does not defend the interests of children, who will? Now let's have the techniques in beginning the editorial. You can start with an emphatic statement or maxim. For example, life is unfair, but life is what we live for. A striking statement about the topic. Example, zero crime rate, peaceful, safe. These are just some of the epithets attached to Batanes province. A quotation. Example, many are called but few are chosen, so the Bible says. Narration. The 25th of April marked a seemingly job interview of the presidentiables as they engaged in the third and last round of debate in Pangasinan. An order. Stop media killings. A question. Do you still remember when Rodrigo Duterte vowed to clean the country's criminality in 3 to 6 months? Poetic. As the election nears, many Filipinos are still like small boats tossed by the winds, yet innocent that half a kilometer away is a waterfall that may wallow them down to perpetual poverty. They need to say no to vote buying. Prophecy. If we do not listen to the cry of Mother Earth, we will wake up one morning wishing to live in Jupiter and Saturn. Reaction. Never did we see the Student Council dip its finger in the issue of amending the student manual. Analogy. Like a stern wall cleaner, the newly elected president of the Student Council is trying to clean up the controversies attached to the organization. So those are the techniques in beginning the editorial. How about in ending the editorial? You may end the editorial with a proverb. For example, people look up to the home of the Ivatans as an honest and safe haven. We must then prove that first impression is lasting. You may also end with a quotation. For example, if we think that education is expensive, let us take it from Will Durant, who said, "Education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance." Do you want to stay ignorant? Advice. For example, we should start changing our system. Let us dress up and vote. Are we confident in persuading? How do you persuade? These are techniques in persuasion in editorial writing. The first one is appeals. One persuasive technique is appealing to the audience's emotions, fears, need to protect their family, desire to fit in, to be accepted, desire to protect animals and environment, pride in our country and others. Evidence. Using evidence is very persuasive as it makes the reader see the editorial writer as knowledgeable, thus the argument is more logical or reliable. One example of showing evidence is by providing statistics, expert opinions, research findings, and anecdotal evidence. Attacks. Attacks on opposing views or the people who hold them can persuade the readers by portraying views and beliefs which are contrary to the editorial board's contrition as foolish, dangerous, uncaring, or deceitful. Using humor to make fun of these views can be particularly persuasive. Note, it can offend or alienate audience if overdone. Rhetorical questions. These are questions that do not require an answer. That's why they are called rhetorical questions. They are asked for effect only. They engage the readers and encourage them to consider the issue and accept the editorial board's answer, or imply that the answer is so obvious that anyone who disagrees is foolish. Cause and effect. Arguments may claim that there is a cause and effect relationship when really there is just a relationship and other factors should be considered. Connotations. The connotation is the emotional meaning associated with the word. Persuasive editorial writers often choose their words carefully so that the connotation suits their purpose. For example, kill and slaughter both mean the same thing, but the word slaughter has a different connotation to kill, as it causes the reader to imagine that the act was particularly horrific. Another are words like health issue versus health crisis, terrorist versus freedom fighters. Analogy. This is a form of reasoning which compares one thing with another in order to make a particular point. For example, school is like a prison and students are like prisoners. Generalizations. Make sweeping statements about a whole group based on only one or two members of that group. This can be persuasive if the readers believe that generalization is appropriate, but can also undermine argument if they do not. For example, a teacher might see one or two teenagers cheating in class Sampaguita and write a letter to the editor claiming all students in class Sampaguita are cheaters and cannot be trusted. Humor. The use of humor, such as puns, irony, sarcasm, satire, and jokes, can be persuasive by dismissing opposing views, providing a more engaging and friendly tone, and sway an audience by having them enter into the joke. For example, a writer may use Malice in Wonderland as pun on Alice in Wonderland regarding some malicious issues in school. Repetition. By repeating letters, words, and phrases, the author can reinforce the argument and ensure that the point of view being made stays in the reader's mind. Hyperbole. The use of hyperbole emphasizes points by exaggerating. It can be used to mock opposing opinions as a shock tactics technique or an appeal to fears. Alliteration and Assonance. The repetition of initial consonant sounds, that's alliteration, or vowel sounds, that is assonance, adds emphasis to major points and makes them more memorable. Imagery and figurative language. The use of figurative language and metaphor and simile can paint a word picture to audience, making the point visually or may appeal to emotions. They can also make the editorial writer appear sophisticated or well-spoken. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!